All right, let's jump into this deep dive. We got some interesting source material on this guy, John.
Yeah, looks like a pretty fascinating life. Lots of creativity, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's not just creative, though, right? It's like he's made originality itself an art form.
Definitely. I mean, even looking at his childhood, there are signs of that everywhere. Like his bedroom as a teenager.
Oh, yeah, what was it? Like shockingly dramatic black walls or something.
Yeah, and an architect's drafting table. Mood boards with, like, high fashion models. Not your average teenage bedroom decor.
Not at all. More like a statement, almost.
Exactly.
Like-
He wasn't messing around even then, surrounding himself with inspiration.
Wow. I guess when you start that young, it makes sense that it turned into a lifelong thing.
Yeah, early creative exploration, it really shapes you. You see it in so many artists' lives. But then you see his 80s style, frosted tips and leopard print.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a bold look.
Seriously. I mean, the 80s were already pretty out there, big hair and all that.
Yeah.
But even then, he stood out.
So it's not just about following trends. It's about...
It's about expressing yourself, taking risks, pushing boundaries, not being afraid to stand out.
Right. So it's that deeper sense of individuality coming through again.
And that seems to be a constant throughout his life, this commitment to being an original.
Really interesting. Okay, so we've got this artistic passion from a young age, this nonconformist streak.
Yeah.
Then he goes from drawing in his room to, what was it, some prestigious art school in New York City.
Yep, big jump. And it's actually a smart move when you think about it. This is the late 20th century, right? Traditional animation's still big, but...
Things are changing, right?
Exactly. Digital art's on the rise, other visual mediums too. So going to art school, it wasn't just about technique. It was about exposure to all these new ideas and movements.
Keeping up with the times, essentially.
Yeah.
And I guess being in New York, surrounded by all that art and culture.
Totally immersive experience. The source mentions studying nude models, rubbing shoulders with celebrities in class, going to gallery openings. It's like
soaking up inspiration from everywhere.
Exactly. And that kind of environment, especially for a young artist, it can be incredibly influential.
Makes sense. So we've got the art, the fashion, then there's the music. It says here he can sing and play guitar simultaneously, and apparently it still baffles people how he does it.
Yeah, that's not easy to pull off. It's all about coordination, developing those independent rhythms in each hand while still controlling your voice.
It's like, how many things can you do at once?
It shows real dedication, that's for sure. And it says he was performing in some legendary New York City clubs, too.
Wow, those clubs. That's like a rite of passage for any musician in the city.
Right. It's not just about performing. It's about honing your craft, becoming a part of that whole music scene.
So he's got that New York hustle, for sure. But wait, it gets even more interesting. It says he wins a music competition and ends up living in Spain.
Hold on, Spain? Really?
Yeah, from Jersey City to New York to Spain.
Wow, that's incredible. Talk about stepping outside your comfort zone.
Right, this guy's life just keeps getting more and more fascinating.
It really makes you wonder what drew him there. What did he experience in Spain? How did it shape his art? Spain's got such a rich artistic history, from flamenco to Picasso, Dali.
It must have been an incredible time for him.
Definitely a period of huge growth and inspiration, I'd imagine.
And speaking of Spain, that's where he met his wife, right?
Yeah, seems like they really clicked. And the source makes a point of emphasizing how they're both so passionate about art.
Like a real power couple. 2 peas in a pod is how they put it.
Exactly. That shared passion, it can be such a strong bond, especially for creative people.
It makes me think of like Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera. Their relationship is a whole other thing, but
there was definitely that creative energy between them.
Totally. So maybe John and his wife had something similar going on.
It highlights how important it is to find someone who gets your creative side, someone who encourages it.
Absolutely. And then they end up in Los Angeles, of all places, another hub for artists.
LA has that draw, right? It's like unconventionality is celebrated there. It's where you go to take risks, make big things happen.
So it makes sense they'd gravitate towards that kind of scene.
Definitely. But then the source throws us a curveball. It talks about John saving lives in a fire, like rushing into a burning building.
Oh, wow. I forgot about that part. That's intense.
Talk about a hero. And it really adds another layer to his character. We've got the artistic side, the adventurous side.
And now the brave, selfless side.
Exactly. It's like, this guy keeps surprising us.
It says the city even recognized him for it, some kind of public acknowledgement.
Well deserved, I'd say. Those acts of bravery, they need to be acknowledged.
For sure. Okay, let's jump back to the creative stuff. What about this new band of his, the Clone Wolves? That name is wild.
The Clone Wolves, it's catchy, that's for sure. Makes you think about, like, Duality, that mix of familiar and unfamiliar.
Wolves are all about pack mentality, raw energy. But then Clone, it's like sci-fi, futuristic.
I wonder if their music reflects that blend of energy and innovation.
Yeah, the source definitely hints at a unique sound. Plus, they've got those projects coming up in 2025. I'm curious to hear what they come up with.
Me too. But even with all the achievements, all the adventure, the source really emphasizes John's character. Like, they call him loyal, funny, and kind, someone who just puts you at ease.
Makes you think, in a world that often feels so superficial, it's refreshing to hear about someone who's just genuinely good.
Totally. It shows he hasn't let all the success go to his head. He's stayed grounded.
Yeah, the real deal, like they said. And then there's that line at the end, there is no one quite like him.
It's true, though, isn't it? It's not just about talent or what he's accomplished. It's the whole package. His character, his spirit.
He's really forged his own path, embraced his individuality, created a life that reflects who he is.
And it makes you think about how we define success, right? It's not always about money or fame.
It's about finding something that's meaningful, fulfilling, living a life that's true to yourself.
Exactly. And let's be real, it's not like John's had it easy. The art world, the music industry, they're tough. He's had to adapt, overcome challenges.
But he's kept going, never lost sight of his passions.
And that's inspiring, isn't it? It makes you wonder what drives someone like that, what fuels their creativity.
Is it a thirst for knowledge?
Mm-mm.
The need to express himself? Or maybe it's something deeper, something we can't really put into words.
It's probably a mix of everything, right? Natural talent, a supportive environment, that drive to create.
Yeah.
But there's also that X factor, that spark.
Like a fire that just keeps burning.
Yeah. And it's contagious in a way. I mean, just hearing about John's life makes me want to tap into my own creativity, take some risks.
Totally. It makes you want to live a little bolder, embrace those things that make you unique.
Exactly. That's the power of these kinds of stories. They challenge us, inspire us to see the world differently.
They remind us that we can all live extraordinary lives, make our mark on the world.
And maybe one day someone will be telling our stories, talking about the amazing things we did, the lives we lived.
Wow, that's a great thought. As we wrap up this deep dive into John's world, let's try to sum up what we've learned.
That sounds good.
First off, it's clear that nurturing creativity from a young age is so important. Whether it's art supplies, encouraging imagination,
Or just creating that supportive environment. Those early experiences, they really make a difference.
think of it like planting a seed, right? Give it the right care, and it'll grow into something amazing.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop in childhood. We can keep nurturing our own creativity throughout our lives.
Yeah, it's like giving ourselves permission to try new things, to experiment, to keep learning.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads into the second takeaway, right? John's whole life, it shows how powerful it can be to just be yourself, even when it means standing out.
Right, from those bold fashion choices to his whole career path. He never shied away from being different.
And that seems to be a big part of why people are drawn to him. It's not just about being different for the sake of it.
It's about being genuine, letting your true self come through.
Yeah, owning those things that make you unique, your quirks, your passions, your perspective, that's what makes you interesting, memorable.
Absolutely. And lastly, John's story shows us what happens when you chase your passions, with everything you've got.
Whether it's art, music, anything, that dedication, that drive, it can lead to amazing things.
A life filled with purpose. We see it over and over with John, from that early dedication to art to what he's doing now with the Clone Wolves.
And even his heroic act, right? It's like that same drive that fuels his creativity also pushes him to act when others might hesitate.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into John's world, I'm left with a question. What would you ask him if you could?
Ooh, that's a good one. What could we learn from someone who's so committed to being true to himself?
Maybe it's about trusting your gut, taking those creative risks, or just embracing the journey wherever it takes you.
Maybe. And maybe his story will inspire us to create our own extraordinary journeys, filled with passion, purpose.
And a little bit of that originality, too. Well, that about wraps it up for this deep dive.
It's been a fascinating one, that's for sure.
Thanks for joining us as we explored the world of John. We hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, keep exploring, keep creating.
And keep being your amazing, unique selves.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.